Caleb Bond, reporter with the Adelaide Advertiser. You're in a little bit of a goldfish bowl. I can hear a murmur in the background. Are you being visually attacked by these climate protesters, are you?
Well, I was when I was standing out the front of the Elizabeth Street studios here, and I was even abused by them. They were nice enough to come up and express how much of big fans they were of my work. A few fingers thrown around and a few words that I can't repeat on air. But look, you know, it's democracy in action. They can go around and protest. It gives them something to do. They presumably don't have jobs or anything, so good on them.
Well said. All right, the Prime Minister is seeking state support to convene some kind of wide-ranging national inquiry into the bushfire crisis. The inquiry could take the form of a royal commission or judicial inquiry. Scott, as you know, after natural disasters, it's usually the state or territory that raises and initiates inquiries. He'll need to get the states on side for this, won't he?
Oh, look, he will indeed, Chris, and he needs to get the states on side, because clearly what he's looking for in terms of this Royal Commission or judicial inquiry is to make sure it can look at also what the states have been doing in terms of bushfire management and loading and those kind of issues. So he needs to make sure the states are on side in terms of that. One assumes they will come on board. He spoke to his coalition colleagues on a teleconference the other day, indicated this Royal Commission. No doubt the states will come on board, and because he would just smash them up if they didn't agree to this. But he does need them there so he can look at what they're doing and what they have been doing. You touched on that in that interview just a moment ago in terms of whether the kind of fire backburning, the getting rid of the fuel loads has been being done by the states in accordance even with recommendations in recent times. Yeah,
I think it's a superb idea and probably saves a stack of work doing individual state-by-state inquiries and putting it all under the one umbrella. The Greens are trying to nail the Prime Minister still, though, Caleb, by sort of trying to link his emissions policy to the bushfires. It's a scientific impossibility.
Well, it's ridiculous. I mean, if we want to talk about whether emissions are affecting the bushfires, let's talk about China. I mean, as we know, we are just a drop in the water here in Australia. Meanwhile, you've got countries like China, India, the US, which are emitting at a rate of knots. Now, we can do everything we possibly can in Australia to reduce our emissions. It won't make one iota of difference to bushfires in this country, because there are other countries doing far more, spewing out far more emissions than we are. You cannot blame the Prime Minister for the bushfires.
Caleb, why didn't you open the door of your studio and let all of those protesters know that as you said that?
Look, there's a couple of seats in here. If they'd like to come in and sit down and get some common sense, they're more than welcome to.
What a waste of time.
But they're out there saying sack Scott Morrison. Now, I don't know how democratically literate these people are. You can't sack the Prime Minister. They have made, as we've discussed before, they've made Scott Morrison basically the lightning rod for their hatred. Scott Morrison didn't start the fires. He can't stop the fires. All he can do is stand around as a leader and say, OK, we'll give some money here and we'll look resolute and whatever. But at the end of the day, it's a state issue. And that's why this inquiry is needed.
And he's not even on top of the chain of command tree.
No.
When it comes to bushfires. People have got to get that in their head.